bunny ears, round the tree. No, climb the tree. No, round the tree, into the, up the, and then you go, oh, piss. Too difficult. That's more like it. Like any other self-assured, well-adjusted human, I'm not afraid to admit, I love e-bikes. Anything that allows me to do more of what I love, which is gravity-assisted hooning down mountains. And if I can do that with minimal effort, well, maybe we get 2 thumbs up from this guy, if I could be bothered to lift my thumbs. Oh, God damn it. Yeah, there we go. There are 2 types of electrically assisted mountain bikes these days. There's the full power e-bikes that give you as much battery, as much power to do as many laps in the shortest amount of time as possible. And then there's the SL e-bikes, stands for super light, and they give you less battery, they give you less power, and they give just less of everything. Come on. So when the big boss called and said a SL e-bike manufacturer wants you to try out their motor and make a video about it, I was like, why? Oh, it's so much easier. I genuinely never understood the point in them. It's a product for people who are embarrassed to be seen on an electric bike.
Get out! Don't look at me! Get out!
And then they do less laps, and it's not like they're even any cheaper. If you're going to be spending the money, just get the big one. So, no video. Oh, you're joking. Then the speed sensor crapped the bed on my main e-bike. So maybe I can make a little video? Welcome to Pinkbike's Explain Explore, where I check out interesting products and technology in the world of mountain bike, find the nuggets of gold, then turn them into pretty little trinkets and lob them at the unsuspecting public. This is not a review. This is edutainment.
No, I was zooming the wrong way.
Now, I love working on videos where I get to explain interesting technologies because I've got to really figure out how they work to be able to communicate them clearly.
Reusability, the reusability is all, oh, almost.
But this e-bike motor was an absolute brain melter. Inside this tiny drive unit is a high-speed electric motor and a gearing system that reduces the speed of that motor to match the cadence of my weak legs, and it does that in a smaller footprint than any other comparable motor. How? Well, I cracked this other one open to have a look, and just look at that. This is a cycloidal drive with a twist, and it's honestly mesmerizing. How is it doing that? Well, before I get into how it works, 2 basic things to understand. First, electric motors, they're the spinny magnet rings that turn your electrons into the rotation. Well, they have to spin crazy fast for reasons I don't have the time or intelligence to explain. This speed is not great for riding bikes, as it's pretty tricky to hold a cadence of over 2000 RPM for more than a few milliseconds. Secondly, traditional e-bike motors like the Bosch, Shimano, DJI take the high RPMs of the motor and gear them down with a series of meshing reduction gears and drive shafts that I need a model. Hang on. Let's say the high-speed motor outputs its max power at 2000 RPM to this small gear. It meshes with the larger gear, rotating it at a reduced 622 RPM. We pass the reduced RPMs at the big gear through a drive shaft into another set of reduction gears, and now the RPM is 194. Do that again, and at the output shaft we get 60 revolutions for every 2000 of the motor. This is exactly what's happening inside most normal e-bike motors, except they are infinitely more refined than this little mock-up here. But that's still a lot of gears to get the perfect output speed, which makes things bigger, heavier, and noisier. There must be another way to gear the motor speed down with less gears and weight. Let me try and break this down, and disclaimer, massive simplifications incoming. Stage 1, electric spin. This ring of magnets is the spinning rotor of the electric motor, which inputs 2000 RPM to the system. Stage 2, induce wobble. This is the silver input ring. It is mounted offset from the center of rotation, which makes the ring move in little circles around the center point of the spinning rotor at the same 2000 RPM. Importantly though, the input ring is mounted on a bearing, so it doesn't rotate at 2000 RPM, it only wobbles. Stage 3, reverse real slow. Pressed into the motor housing is the white stationary ring, which has these beautifully shaped cycloidal teeth, just like the wobbling input ring. When that input ring wobbles, the teeth mesh in the most fantastic way. As the input ring tooth is pushed up into the tooth of the stationary ring by the offset wobble, it slides down the cycloidal ramp of that tooth in the opposite direction of the motor rotation. This happens at every single tooth, but the rotation is so tiny that the motor has to rotate 36 times to rotate that input ring just once. That means our 2000 RPM input has been geared down to 55 RPM.
And with only one gear, or two if you count the stationary ring. This initial stage of this drive unit is a cycloidal drive. It's the same system you'll find inside the huge industrial articulating robot arms used in manufacturing. They use cycloidal gears because they are durable. They have the highest torque density of any other gearing system and are very accurate because the gears have minimal backlash, which means there's no slop like you'd find in normal gears.
I know how you kids like them sloppy.
Lady, you're scaring us.
I hope you're still with me as we finally arrived at the twist. Remember the silver input ring that's rotating at a dreamy 55 RPM? Well, it's a bit wobbly. You need smooth concentric RPMs and not this sexy hypnotic dance.
The industrial cycloidal drives I mentioned use load pins to smooth out the wobble and output the geared down rotation, but that is not what is happening here.
And the clever clogs who came up with this saucy bit of cycloidal savagery deserve a pat on the head.
Mirrored cycloidal.
They've put another cycloidal drive inside the cycloidal drive.
You gotta hit us up to get a pimped out ride.
This one is mirrored by adding teeth to the inside of that silver input ring. That's 2 for 1, baby.
Stage 4, Dastardly De-Wobble. So, cycloidal gears always come in pairs. One wobbles eccentrically and one does not. The inside of that silver input ring continues its insatiable wobble, meshing with the clever mirrored output ring to delete the wobble but keep the rotation. This is so clever, as they've turned the silver input ring of the first cycloidal pair into the input ring of the second mirrored cycloidal pair, and that is just some exquisite efficiency. So, to recap, motor spins, input ring wobbles, cycloidal gears reverse and slow rotation, mirrored cycloidal removes wobble and outputs geared down drive. And if I spin this puppy up, that mirrored output ring, which was
Previously stationary, now revolutionary, lacking percussionary meshing, cycloidally rotating centrifugally, is outputting terrifically at 57 RPM. And while that is all exceedingly impressive and makes for an efficient and torque-dense motor, it still outputs half of the power of a full-fat e-bike. So I'm once again back at my initial thought. What's the point? The first thing I noticed is size. It honestly looks like a normal bike from the side, and it is just the ticket for the e-curious ego enjoyer. I do possess the ability to appreciate form, but function is what brings me joy. The next thing I noticed is nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I've ridden most of the full power alternatives, and I've honestly just gotten used to the electromechanical whine that they generate. A necessary evil for the reward of more descending. I could still appreciate the sights and sounds of nature when out and about, but all of it was underpinned by an abrasive tone. It was never an issue. Oh, but it is pleasingly absent here. Then there's the feeling. It's smooth, very smooth. It was natural, controllable, and I didn't once find myself needing to drag the back brake like a clutch to limit any speed surges or wheel spins like I would normally have to do. Wheelies were a fluid joy instead of a tense challenge. It's predictably pleasant with support that encourages play. But like stepping into a Miata after driving a Corvette, it lacked punch in comparison. Yet I am still lapping the slightly lighter e-bike long after I was supposed to send it back. As a dad with 2 kids, I highly value my miles per hour, so doing double instead of triple laps is a compromise. But there's something in the way that other positives come together that make this a delightful package. There does seem to be a point.
I was trying not to touch my brakes.